Minecraft might have just added the greatest block ever. The new cushion is probably the most versatile block ever added. From chairs and tables to elevators and LED displays and even entire houses, there's seemingly no limit to how useful a cushion can be. But just how useful is it really? I'm gonna find out. Behind me, I have 100 different builds, all using the new cushion blocks. I'm gonna show you literally every use I could possibly think of. And maybe by the end, you'll agree with me that 26.3 is the greatest Minecraft update ever. Or maybe you won't, I don't know. Let's get into it and find out. All right, so here we have all 100 plus build tips I could think of for this video. We're gonna start simple with a bunch of chairs, and then we'll get into some like sort of table designs and some more interesting stuff as we go on. So let's get into it. First up, just straight up the cushion. Very small chair if you wanna sit on the floor or something. Just the cushion block itself is fire for that. So this alone would already be goated, the fact that you just sit. But it gets crazier. You can of course surround it by trapdoors, just make sort of like a more like substantial looking chair. And going on from that, you can of course use shelves, which I mean look even better. I really like the way the shelves look. It kind of has like this nice like curve on the like armrests, which is kind of fire. But of course you can place cushions on other blocks. We put it on top of a trapdoor, you can get a little bit more height, and I think this is kind of like the ideal height for a chair, I think. I like the way it looks. But if you want a bit more height, you can put it on top of a slab. And obviously, since cushions and slabs both come in the 16 wool colors, you can kind of choose like a matching slab for it. And then you can try to find like, and then you can choose a shelf that also matches it. So you can get like some pretty custom furniture. And yeah, some combinations look pretty sick. So now it's time for some advanced tech with a cushion. So right here, you might just see a slab surrounded by trapdoors. But if I actually click on this, it might take a couple clicks sometimes. We actually can sit on this slab. So how to do that? Well, basically, if you put 2 snow layers and then a cushion, you can actually see that it's the exact same height as a slab. And then if you break this and place it, it's now inside of the slab. So if you click on this, you can now sit on anything without seeing the cushion. So this is actually kind of like game changing. And this just leads to like way more options for customizability. So right here, we have basically a slab with only 2 pixels of the cushion poking out. So over here, we have the full cushion on top, and this one's only 2 pixels. So it just lets us like kind of like customize like the height that we want to sit at, and kind of like how much shows through the slab, which I think looks pretty sick. And of course, kind of going on from that, we have a stair with shelf and then the cyan cushion here. So it's just like kind of a cyan themed chair, but using a stair instead of a slab here, which I think this might maybe be the sort of like best chair design. Like, I think this looks pretty good. Like, come on, bro. And of course, next up, we have basically the same thing, but like 2 wide. So you can make this with pretty much any shape, obviously. Now, to place the cushion at this height using these 3, it's pretty simple. You just place 3 snow layers and then a cushion, and then you break it and you place it, and then you get just 2 pixels of the cushion showing through, which I think is pretty sick. And sort of going on from that, we have sort of more of like a bench type of build. Like, I would imagine this like against a building or maybe at like a bus station or something. Just kind of like a more like grayscale sort of like block palette. It looks a bit less comfy, which is kind of the goal, but I think it looks pretty good. And next up, we have something very similar to that couch over there. Obviously, this one's gray, but the actual main difference is the fact that we're using a different amount of the cushion block. So this just kind of show that like you can customize it like a lot. So if we use a large amethyst bud and then a cushion, it's actually at a different height. So if we break and replace this, we only get 1 pixel of cushion showing through, which is like that looks so sick. Like, come on, bro, come on. Moving on here, you can use the cushions as like actual like pillows for a couch, because you can of course place them like in the stair block. So I think this looks pretty sick. You can of course like mix this with like other like classic like couch detailing tricks. So now you kind of have like a gray couch with like some white pillows on it and like gray blankets, and I think it looks pretty sick. I don't know. Got another bench design here. Again, just kind of like going for like a bit more like a gray, like sort of like cold, like less comfortable sort of look. This is actually possible because you place cushions on anything with basically like any sort of surface. So you could place it on this part of the shelf, and then you place signs on both, and it basically just creates like a pretty compact chair. So yeah, if you do 2 of them, it kind of looks like a bench. I like the way it looks, I don't know. Next up, just another simple chair design. I actually use a daylight detector on this one. I just kind of like the color. I think it's sort of interesting. It's a bit different than dark oak. Like, it has less of like a rich sort of color to it. And I'm only using 2 pixels of the cushion, of course, using snow layers to just kind of make it poke out just a little bit. You know, some trapdoors on the side, I think looks pretty good. Shelf on the back, of course. Just kind of a beautiful like texture on that. It's fire. Next up, we got a couple stools here, just sort of different like levels of complexity going on here. First, we just have a very simple fence with a cushion on top. You know, you can sit on it, of course, which is like crazy. When you get off, you like kind of clip inside though. I don't know why. Next up, sort of add to that, we have some armor stands here. It's a lot easier to build than it looks. Basically, all you do is place like 4 armor stands, sort of like rotated. So have to make this sort of like circle. Then you place the floor block and then a fence. Piston, push it down, get a filler block in there, and then you just kind of have like a fence that has like some like fancy looking details on it, and of course you just put a cushion on top, and that's a stool. And to sort of add to that, if you do this a bit lower and place it on, I don't know how many snow layers this is, 6 snow layers, You can actually get like a smaller stool, which I think looks better because like it lines up with a countertop better usually. I feel like, let's say there's like a like trap door height like counter, you know what I mean? It just kind of lines up pretty well. But then once you get those armor stands in place again, you could place string and then a cushion on top of the string, and that makes the height for it. You don't need a fence for this one. So I kind of like this design a lot. And next to sort of wrap up the like living room type like chair sort of tips here, we have like what in my mind was like an ottoman. It kind of might, like, depending on the blocks you use, be more like a coffee table, I guess. But the idea was that you could use the cushion and like a slab, and you of course place it at any height you want. I think this is using snow layers here. And you just kind of have like a nice like looking like footrest thing. I like the way it looks. I guess you could sit on it. I don't know. That wasn't the goal, but I like the way it looks. Pretty sick. Next up, we got a bunch of like kitchen related build tips, and then 2 that aren't for some reason, but get started with like very simple like countertops. So these are actually a little bit weird to place, but I think it's pretty cool because it lets you basically have a countertop while still having like a flower pot or like pressure plates or candles. Before, in order to do this, you'd like pretty much need to like have an extra block for like a trap door coming out of here to like cover up whatever block you like put in there. But now you don't have to. The way you place these is like pretty simple. You place a sign on a wall, get a cushion on top, and then you just place any block. There is one sort of like negative to this. It leaves a very small amount of space. It's like half a pixel, which is like pretty cool for like this sort of thing because it makes it like basically flat. But the downside is that it has to not be a full block. So keep that in mind. So right here we have the back of a shelf, and over here we have a stair. So yeah, it's definitely like worth doing, but you just have to like keep in mind what block you're gonna use there. And using the same build here, we have just like another like stool type design. I don't know if I really like this one. I think it's kind of interesting. I have a wither skeleton skull down here and then a gray cushion. I don't think it looks bad. You basically put these on like anything and it makes a stool. So yeah, pretty cool. Well, I got you here though. Did you guys know I have a Discord link down below? Discord.gg/rowannn. A lot of cool people in there. Got a build stuff channel. Join it. If you had any new cushion ideas that aren't in this video, be sure to show them off there. I'm curious. I'm looking at it. I'm just wondering how you guys are using this block since, you know, it's like the most unique thing like they've like ever added. So, you know, a lot of cool stuff. I also have a Minecraft server, Shoutout.us. More info in the Discord, but yeah, let's move on here. Also, subscribe, please. We're closing on 100K, bro. That's crazy. So, you know, consider it. You don't have to. Think about it. Next up, we got sort of like a picnic table sort of thing. This is again using the same trick as before, using a wall sign just to get like 1 pixel showing through. I think it's pretty cool. It does kind of show through on the side. It's a little weird looking, but I actually like the way it looks a lot. So it's fire. You can of course place stuff on this still. It's a little weird to place stuff on top of cushions because you can't like actually click on it. So you have to place a block on the side, and then you can click here with a flower pot. So keep that in mind. But it's a possibility. It's just a little weird. Next up, I think this is sort of like one of my favorite ways to use the cushion. Is sort of like a picnic blanket. Like it's kind of like tough. Like hold up, because before if you were to use carpet, then you obviously couldn't put like anything on top of it. But if you use like wool, then it would be kind of like flat. So there's sort of like a nice middle ground. You can obviously like do this at any height you want. Again, I'm using the sign trick here, and there's scaffolding underneath because no full block. So yeah, just pretty simple trick here. I don't know. Next up, we got some table tricks here. First up, we just got a very simple fence with a brown cushion on it. Now, you might remember earlier, I did basically the same thing as a stool, but this one is actually a little bit taller. So this one I placed using the sign trick from earlier, but you can again place it basically any way you want. I do the sign trick because it's like slightly taller than a block, so the fence doesn't like poke through. So yeah, sign, cushion, fence, and yeah, pretty cool table. One benefit of these tables over the classic like trapdoor type tables is if you had a fence and a trapdoor, then that's it. You can't put a block on top of this. And if you wanted the trapdoor to be at a height where you could put a block on top of it, you couldn't put a fence underneath it. So this lets you actually have a table and put a flower pot there, which is like kind of sick. Like, I don't know. And you actually don't even really need to replace the sign. You could just keep it as a sign, have sort of like a floating like bar type table. So here I just, have the sign, and then I have cushions. Obviously you can put flower pots here as well, because the cushion doesn't take the block up, and you can even put paintings in the same space, which I think is pretty sick. But yeah, if you need like a floating sort of like countertop, looks pretty sick. And just like we did earlier with some of the couches and the chairs, if you put a cushion inside of a stair, you can click on it and it's completely hidden and you can sit in here. Again, I'm not going to go over every placement for these since I think that would get a little bit redundant, but 2 snow and break in place, and then boom. Pretty simple. It's kind of fire. I don't know. It's kind of fire. And sort of in the same line as before, if you use an amethyst bud here, I think a large amethyst bud specifically, you can get it slightly over the top. So if you want like just like a little padded area on a seat, perfect. You can also sit in this way easier, so that's kind of positive. For this one, like sometimes you don't click it. Like that's gonna be like 5 clicks to sit down. This one, obviously, you click it every time and it works. And it's just like kind of perfect. Next up, one of my favorite places to make interiors in Minecraft is the kitchen. So we have a couple kitchen build tips here. They're not too complicated, but I'm pretty happy with the way they look. So right here we have 2 different oven designs, and they're basically the same. They're just a different color. But the classic Minecraft sort of oven, at least that I would build, is like a smoker and a detector rail. And then you could use a debug stick to like light that or make this like on. So that looks pretty sick. It does look pretty good. You put a campfire underneath for some smoke, all that. But you kind of see this like weird, like ugly top on it. So I thought, thinking of a real life oven, like you don't usually see that, right? So if you place a sign, cushion, so you can get that like half pixel poking out the top, and then replace for smoker in there. And as you can see, since I used a full block, like I mentioned earlier, it has like a shadow on it, but if this is lit, it doesn't do that. So you can just see like the black cushion there, and you place the rail, turn the rail on, and you kind of just have like an actual like burner on a stove, which I think is like kind of sick. And sort of like going off of that, using the same build at the bottom here, we have like sort of like a smoke like extractor. I just thought there's a lot of ways to build these, right? Like I've seen this sort of build before. I just think you could like throw cushions on there and add a bit more detail. I'm not entirely sure if I like this that much, but I think I do. And you can of course like stack them if you want more unique sort of like layouts, but I like it. Next up, just like a simple grill. It's kind of just deep slate stairs and like a shelf or whatever, but on the inside we have a campfire with a gray cushion. So you just put the campfire and you put the cushion on top of it, and then the fire pokes through, but you can't see like the wood under it. So it's like actually a pretty interesting effect, and kind of using the same trick. I have two of them side by side here, and I have like a table around it and like a smoke fan on top from earlier. Sort of like a hibachi place, I guess. Like, you know, they'd be like standing here like cooking the food, you know, as like the open fire, as a smoke and everything. And I think it just looks like really cool. It's kind of all about like the environment that you place it in. Like obviously like a lot of these build tips aren't like that specific, but like if you build around it, then you could really like kind of let your imagination like do most of the work, and I think it looks pretty cool. And just to sort of like unceremoniously end the kitchen section, we have another stool. I mean, it's nothing crazy. It kind of just meant to show that like you could use like anything under this, right? You could use a lightning rod, you could use fences, chains. I mean, like it's basically like endless. Like any block you could think of, you could turn into furniture if you just like a little creativity, you know? Next up, we got a few different shelf designs here, starting with the lever one. It's just a lever with a cushion on top, and this one is actually like a perfect height for a pot, so that's pretty sick. Next up, you use a shelf mushroom here and put a cushion on it. It's not quite the right height to actually put stuff on, but if you're just like seeing it as a shelf, it's pretty cool. You can of course bone meal this if you want like a more like substantial looking shelf sort of like support. You can use signs underneath for more like a floating shelf. This one actually is the right height to put stuff on. You could even use buttons. You'd basically use any block you could think of for like a shelf, which is pretty cool. Next up, sort of a 2-for-1. First, we got glass with cushions on top. Sort of just like a table. These cushions are placed on snow layers to get like a bit different of a height because I don't want them to be too tall. And again, as you know, usual here, you could put a pot in there, or you could put like candles on that or something, which just so sick. It's so sick. And then they also just have like this basic, like, I don't really know what this is, like table, I guess, with like a tablecloth on it. I'm not really sure, but you know, you get like some different height in there. It's just cool to be able to have like a different height while still having like a painting and still being able to put like flower pots and candles on it, basically. Like, it's so sick. Next up, a very simple shelf design. We sort of have shelves along the back, and we have cushions placed like actual shelves. Very simple, just, you know, shelf, cushion, shelf, cushion, you know what I mean? Very, very simple placing. But yeah, it just kind of makes the items look like they're sitting on the cushion here, which is pretty sick. Next up, a very simple sort of like window seat setup. Of course, we have cushion here. This is on 7 snow layers to get like a bit poking out, but not too much. Very simple window seat. I mean, you actually sit on it, which kind of for some reason feels like a side thing, but that is the point of the block. Next up, as someone who primarily builds houses, this is like actually a really sick use for the cushion. So in houses from real life, you'll like really often see like a white trim completely surrounding the window and then like a support in the middle. And it's always been like impossible to do, but now you actually can do it. And it is like really easy. Like, don't let it fool you. Basically all you need to do is on the top block, 6 layers of snow, cushions, trapdoors, and that's basically it. Then you know, trapdoor on the bottom, you know, cushions, and that is a 2x2 window with a full white trim around the whole thing, which was like formerly like completely impossible. So sick. So of course, using that sort of like principle here, we have a 3x2 window, we have a 2x2 window, we have a 3x3 window, we have a tall window with kind of like a circular sort of like top shape on it, just using stairs and the cushion. Again, before, this would not be able to like happen. You would either have to choose between having the fence or like a trap door up here, but now you could do both, and of course on the bottom too. Kind of just flower pots here to sell the sort of illusion here. This is like a window. And if you want to even go smaller than that, you could use fence gates and cushions. Again, the same trick as earlier, but just fence gates this time to get like a 1x2 window, and these kind of like fill the sides. Pretty sick. It's so sick. It's so sick. Next up, we got a couple bathroom tips here. First, of course, the bathtub. You can put cushions in water and they don't break, which is pretty sick. Next up, we got a bath mat here. Now, you know, normally a cushion is, again, 4 pixels tall, but if you place on some snow layers, you can get, you know, any height you want. So that's, I think, 7 snow layers of the cushion. Next up, we got sort of like countertops. Again, similar trick to the kitchen, just depending on the environment you're using it in. It's pretty cool. And this, again, lets you basically have a different top counter texture to like whatever block you want to use for like the actual like sides of it, while still being able to place like soap and like candles or whatever on it, you know what I mean? Because again, before you would need to put a block and then like put like a trapdoor in front of it if you wanted 2 different colors here, but now you don't have to. And the final tip for the bathroom, I don't remember where I saw this. I'll try to find something. I'm sorry. It's sort of like molding to put around like the ceiling of basically like any room, but it does kind of feel like a bathroom sort of thing to me. But all you have to do for this is you put a block, 4 snow layers, cushion, 2 more snow layers, cushion again, and then break and replace with a stair. And that is all you need to just kind of like make basically custom blocks, which is kind of sick. Next up, well, those were mostly like interior tips. We just have a bunch of random stuff now. First up, I've seen a lot of people doing this, so I'm not going to take any credit for this. But it's basically just roads. It's using the same trick I just did to make this custom block here. But doing like yellow here for the road stripes, and then on the side of the road you use white. So it lets you just basically do like way smaller scale detail from like top down, and I think it's pretty sick. Got a very simple hot tub here. You can sit in it. Build itself isn't anything crazy. All right, you know, my brain was kind of not really doing its thing, but you could sit in the water. Okay, this is kind of, I feel like this is a bit high, but you get the point. All right, you get the point. Next up, I'm not gonna take any credit for this. Shout out Crafty Mastermind Brothers Twin. But cushion, redstone lamp, flick, LED. All right, I'll link his video on it. Really cool stuff. One thing I do want to point out is I saw a lot of people like stressing because they actually, I guess it's a good time to talk about it. They removed like the sub-pixel placing thing in a cauldron, so you can't put it at any height anymore. Like I'm trying to click, you can't. You can only put it at the bottom or the top, which I think is fair. Honestly, it does kind of suck, but I think it's fair. So, but this trick is not broken. You just use a sign instead. It puts it like a pixel, like a half pixel out the top. Replace it, and we're back, and you can still turn it like an LED. So no stressing, guys. It still works, but you know, a bit different. But while we're here, a few more redstone uses. If you put a pressure plate on top of a redstone lamp and a cushion, it'll activate and it goes away. So it basically like hides the input, which is pretty cool. I mean, you can obviously use this anywhere. It doesn't have to be on our lamp, obviously, for, you know, visualization, but it hides the input, which I think is pretty cool. But another cool thing is if you use a wooden pressure plate and step on it, it stays lit. Now, like, that might not seem like the most useful thing ever, right? But from the bottom, that is basically invisible. Like, you really can't tell how this is being powered. So if you want to make like a street light or something that's like always on outside, you don't need like a daylight sensor on top, which I think is pretty cool. Next up, we got 2 sort of like interesting tips that like aren't build related really at all. First up is just its use as like traveling. So this kind of just like a small demonstration I have. Let me build a proper thing real quick. So right here, we have a line of cushions. And if I sit in here and I activate my like inner 1.8 PvP goat from like 10 years ago, we can just click on this. And it is really fast. It is fast movement. Like it's basically like a teleporter, bro. Like that's crazy. And sort of like a similar vein here, if you have a vertical tower of them, you can click a few times and you're just right up to the top, click another cushion, get off. And it's like a really fast elevator. Obviously, this is not like new. This isn't like new tech. You've been able to do this with minecarts, but it's just cool that they're like a very simple block to place. You could stack them, so you can carry 16 of them and just kind of like set these up really easily. They're less ugly. They don't get like nudged around. So it's just a very cool option to have. So I think even if you're not a builder, like you should kind of like the cushions a bit. I don't know. Another like sort of weird thing, you could use them to hide redstone. This isn't like the most like crazy like tech ever, but I think it's pretty cool. I mean, if you have like a hallway or something and you just have redstone going along the floor, like no one will know, you know, pretty cool. Another thing I've seen a lot of is people talking about how you can hide ice boats in them. So here we of course have ice underneath. I'm gonna spin a couple times, make myself motion sick. I don't have a big setup for this. I don't have world edit right now. All right, cut me some slack. But yeah, you can just basically like cover any ice with a cushion. Looks fire. You could of course do it at any height too. So if I wanted like, obviously be a lot of work across the whole ice bridge, but you do something like that. And that'd be like less intrusive because like this kind of covers the boat, but this doesn't. So that's kind of the height you'd probably want to do it at, but that's a lot of work. All right, that's a lot of work. Next up, just a general build tip for anyone who missed like kind of like the initial like cushion hype. This is how to place a full block of cushions. So first up, glass or like kind of a fence would work. Cushion, 2 snow, cushion, 2 snow, cushion, 2 snow, cushion, and there you go. You got a full block of cushions, and then you break and replace this with like anything. A chain kind of works the best because it has no top texture, so it's invisible from the top. So as long as you're looking down so that it places the right way, you now have a full block of cushions, which is like pretty sick. You basically have a customizable block, and I don't think Mojang intends to patch this, so we'll see. Next up, just a few bed designs here real quick. First up, just simply a cushion on a bed. It adds like a blanket. You like get in here, you can see like you're like tucked in, which I think is kind of funny. And next up, using some snow layers, you can get a bit lower and it still works, which I think is funny. But if you just want to use it as like a bit more like extra detail, just to have like a blanket on the bed, I believe it's like 3 cushions is that height. Yeah, so 3 cushions and then you place a bed underneath it. And yeah, it just kind of lets you have a blanket. You can obviously use any color too, which is kind of cool. Like you just kind of like mix colors now on beds, which is fire. Also got some designs here for like bigger beds. So first up is a 2x2 bed. So you have 2 simple beds, and then using a large amethyst bud, you actually place cushions at the perfect height for this. which something that's like kind of interesting because it's not really been possible before. The best we had before were slabs, which are a pixel too low. But now we can place stuff at a like perfect pixel level, which lets us like, you know, again, replace it, and you just get like a nice like bigger bed, and it's kind of seamless. But for some even bigger beds here, we of course have just using cushions as cushions, you know, some calm pillows here, because they kind of nice texture for it, obviously. I mean, it's kind of the point. Or using slabs as the pillow instead, you use cushions for the blanket, just like if you want a different height for it. So yeah, there's a lot of options here, a lot of options. Next up, there's a couple like pet related ones. We of course first have like a dog or cat bed. Nothing crazy, just a trapdoor, cushion, and surrounded by any sign of your choice, obviously. And we have a very simple cat tree. I mean, this one's kind of mid, but I think you get the picture, you know. You can of course like surround these with like trapdoors and stuff to kind of make like a closed section of it, and the cushion will just kind of always be there, and it just looks so good, bro. It just looks so good. Got some more like general build tips here, some outside stuff first. We have an umbrella, very simple. It's just trapdoors with cushions on it, and then a slab in the middle, kind of nice height variation. I think this is my new like go-to way to make umbrellas. I'm not entirely sure yet. I have seen people use like string and then like 2 cushions on top of it, which I'm not sure if I'll like better than trapdoors. I'll have to like mess around with it, but this is my go-to for now. And it's like the easiest to build, like because you don't have to stack any cushions or anything. Next up, kind of like niche, I guess. That's just like landscaping in general with the cushions. You have to be a little careful with how you use them, because if you go far enough away, since it's an entity, it will disappear. So in some use cases, you got to be a little careful. So I'm not sure if landscaping is necessarily the greatest use for it. You have to be a little careful with how you use them, but they can be like a nice like gradual sort of like slope between a block and a slab height. Next up, we got 2 really simple lily pad builds. First, just trapdoor with a green cushion on top. It has a really nice like lily pad sort of like texture to it, if you like use it in this sort of setting at least. And you can of course use a cactus flower on top of it to sort of just add like that little bit more to make your brain like know it's a lily pad. You can place them by just putting a block there and placing it, you know, pretty simple. Or obviously you can place it before you place the cushion. Maybe the best like survival friendly lily pad design, I don't know. Next up, we got some mushrooms. So first up, we have an egg with a red cushion on top. It actually does look so much like a mushroom because like the egg has like the spots on it, which I think is kind of funny. Next up, we got a fence, just a fence with a cushion on top, no like weird placing stuff. And then we have an end rod here, but I placed this on some snow layers to get it like a bit lower, which I think is pretty cool. So you just get a lot more variation with details now because you can place it at so many heights. And then of course we got crimson fungus with a red cushion on top. I don't know. I've seen people use like a straight up like red mushroom, but mushroom placement is like annoying. Like sometimes you can't place a mushroom there. So, you know, we have the crimson fungus underneath. I think it looks pretty good, but I like these 3 more. Oops. One more mushroom build. Of course, they added the new shelf mushroom in this update, which I think is a really sick block. There's 2 different sizes for it. It kind of acts like a bed, how you like it reduces some fall damage, I think. But if you place a shelf mushroom and a brown cushion on it, you make like a bigger mushroom, which is kind of funny. You can of course do it with a small one or the big one. I think this will look pretty cool in like larger builds with like a lot of variations of like mushroom sizes. But yeah, shelf mushroom is cool on its own, low-key. Next up, using a campfire, a cushion, and a shelf, you can kind of make a fire pit. So normally you just put a campfire and then you put like, you know, some sort of shelf around it. I chose mangrove because it looks vaguely like brick, but you know, you kind of see like wood in the bottom. That's not a problem. It's just like very like orderly. It just like depends on the vibe you're going for. You put a cushion on top and it covers a lot of it, but as you can see, it kind of covers a lot of the fire. So I think the way I placed this was snow layers, obviously. 2 snow layers, boom, campfire. It covers like most of the wood. You could probably use like amethyst as well for this. There's a lot of different like placements you could do, but this is the way I did it. And that just kind of makes like the fire coming out. Maybe that's like ash on the bottom. You can't really see the wood, which I mean, obviously it makes sense to see wood in a campfire. Okay, I'm just saying like depending on what you're doing, this might look better. I don't know. Next up, a pretty sick use that I've like basically immediately thought of when I realized you could place these in other blocks. And that's just like covering the bottom of a fence if you have like a carpet and you have a block underneath it. So obviously a lot of the time you can just straight up like use wool here, which like obviously is fair. And a lot of the time this will look pretty good. But let's say you're like in the 2nd story of a house and this block is part of the roof of the floor below. You just place a cushion. You can obviously simply just put a cushion there. That adds a lot of height though, so it's maybe not ideal. You could of course use snow layers and then break and replace the block with whatever block you like actually need to be there. And that can make it like a bit smaller. 2 pixels really doesn't look bad. Like it doesn't stand out too much. There's a bit of height, which is not crazy. Or if you use a fence gate, but specifically one that is attached to a wall. You see the normal fence gate is a bit high, but if you put a wall down, the fence gate lowers. So you place a cushion on this. It's perfect carpet height. And then you break and replace it with the block that you need to be there. It gets complicated out here, okay? It gets complicated. But now, perfect carpet height, and you have the block of like the room below that you need to be there. So really cool stuff. You can mess around with this stuff a lot, and it's just a really sick use for it. All right, next up, you got a pretty interesting use here. I try to use it basically as like a keyboard and mouse sort of like setup. So obviously you have the cushion acting as a keyboard with the mouse there. Usually you would use like a black stone pressure plate, something like this for keyboard and mouse, which I think just does look better if I'm being honest. But I'm trying to provide as many ideas as possible here. But this build made definitely me and definitely not Wxst. All right, it was not me. This is not my design. All right, Shoutout Wxst. But using the sign placement trick, which I kind of explained like a million times already in this video. Boom, sign, cushion, stair. You can kind of use two of them, and it looks basically like a desk-sized mouse pad. You do it any color you want, and then you place like the pressure plate and the button on top of it, and it just actually looks so much like a mouse and keyboard on a mouse pad. And then obviously you have like a block or something where there's not the mouse pad to kind of like distinguish it, and I think it just looks so sick. It looks so good. Next up, two more bed things. All right, I know there's been a decent amount of beds in this video, but you could of course use 3 normal beds and then 3 cushions placed on top of an amethyst. Large amethyst bud. The most random stuff, by the way, in this update suddenly becomes useful for building. But perfect height, and you place them with slabs, trapdoors, and you finally have like a perfect like triple bed, and it's like completely seamless, and it looks so sick. Again, before you use slabs, and just weren't quite the right height, but now we're back. And the final sort of like bed related tip this video, I think, is if you place an amethyst bud, cushion, and then break and replace it with a bed, you then get this right here, which is a bed that you could sleep in, but you could also just sit on, which I think is like so sick to be able to like actually just sit on a bed in Minecraft. Like, why did this take, like, don't get me wrong, banger update, why did this take this long? Like, it's so tough. Next up, we actually have 2 different build tips in one. So first up, using something like red, or I guess even like gray or anything, you'd basically make like placemats. So you give your food here, there's like a plate, obviously, you have a cup here, and then we just have 1 red cushion, again, placed with a sign method here, just go like a half a pixel over. And this lets you kind of have like a nice, like, oh, don't step on the pressure plate though. Oh, I broke it. But you get the point, right? Placemat for your plate. But you could also kind of use the same trick with like white as like a plate for a cake, which I think is like so tough. Because like obviously this is like the plate in Minecraft, right? But you can't, put a cake on that, obviously. But the white cushion looks pretty similar, and you can put a cake on it, and it looks so sick. It looks so good. Next up, you can basically use it to make like customized like plants. I just have some very simple stuff here. I didn't feel like going like too crazy with it, but just have 1 cushion on this, which is like obviously pretty simple to make, and this one's like 3 stacked. I don't know what block is even in here. I don't remember. A wither skull, I guess, just to make them stay. But yeah, custom plants, pretty cool. And finally, for this row, we have a pool table. Now, pool tables have always been like sort of possible. So this isn't exactly like a new thing. There's always been like this bit where if you place signs and then you put carpets on them, they sort of poke through. But before, it was like a very small amount of the sign poking through, and you had to use like green carpet at like specific height. Well, not green, it could be any carpet, obviously. But now you could use cushions, and you can get them to be like half a pixel tall, which is of course like shorter than carpet. So you can get more of it to poke through, so it kind of looks more pool stick like. And then of course you just surround it with like shelves, cover it up. And yeah, I think it looks pretty sick. I'm sure there's like more details you could fit in here, but this is kind of what I got. Next up, in certain situations, you can kind of use them as like roof, like tile sort of things. And this obviously lets you have like a more gradual sort of slope, because before, this was kind of like the most gradual slope you do in Minecraft, because it's just slab. Obviously you could do like a lot more gradual slope with cushions, but this is kind of like the simplest way to do it, which is just like cushion, slab, cushion, slab, cushion, and it just kind of lets you have like a beautiful slope for a roof, bro. It's fire. Next up, I kind of just cooked this one up. I don't really know if this looks good or not, but we got this cactus right here. Yeah, bro, look how tough this is. You just like kind of put like cushions like on cactus and like all that sort of stuff, and then you can like place another somehow. I don't remember how. Oh, from the top, obviously. Boom, and then string, cushion. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know, I'm sure you can get like way more unique with this, but it looks tough. Come on. And of course, I also got like a tree sort of design here. I don't know if this actually looks good or not, honestly. I just kind of like built it. I'm not the best at trees, so I'm sure people who are better at trees than me will maybe find a use for these in here. But I got kind of like branches. I think it's kind of interesting that you can just add stuff to like fences that were already there, you know what I mean? So it kind of lets more like shapes be possible, but I don't know if I'd personally use it. Next up, we got two sort of build tips here. First up, a lot of times people outside their house will have like plants kind of in like a bed of like mulch that's kind of like raised a bit. So that's kind of what this is supposed to be. It's like a sort of like lump of like mulch. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Like, you gotta know what I'm talking about. And then also, I just have green cushions sort of like in the yard here. It's meant to be like in those like part of like lawnmowers, sort of like lines that like rich people got in their yard. But it's kind of like a new color. So that's kind of all I'm showing here. Next up, you can kind of use cushions to make water seem like a bit more like murky or like dirty. So we just have green cushions under this water. Without it, it's like kind of like, it doesn't look bad. It's just like pretty see-through, but you can put cushions in here and kind of, just make it look a bit like greener. Like the water itself almost looks kind of green, especially from a distance. So I think it looks pretty good. Next up, this is sort of a bit more like of a general sort of like thing, and this is just their whole utility as like a trap block. So we just have cushions here, and you walk over it, and you fall in lava. Now you could of course use it in the same way as this to make this like completely seamless with carpet, and I'm sure there's a way to like trick people into falling into this. I just have banners here. It's just kind of the easiest like example. You do signs, you can do probably a bunch of other stuff. I don't know. You can of course like just put them like straight up on scaffolding as like a secret entrance. So there's a lot of like sort of like weird sort of like base and like trapping utility with these probably, but not gonna get into that specifically, but it's pretty cool. Closing in on the end here with some of the greatest tips this whole video for sure. We have like a paper lamp sort of thing. Now I just have a fence, and then on top of it is an end rod, and then I stacked 4 cushions on top. Pretty tough. You can obviously do this in like any color, but I think it looks pretty good. And this sort of like extended to like these like Chinese lanterns, which look like really sick in my opinion. So all these are is a chain with a lantern on the bottom, and we got 4 cushions. One of them is actually just on top of the other ones. You just place this one like last, because you can't put a cushion on this bottom part or it'll break because like the lantern isn't supporting it. But it looks so sick. Like I actually like these a lot. Obviously before we could do it with like glass or like even like just wool and like banners, but I think just like the lines in them kind of make them look like papery almost, you know. Next up, we got sort of what's supposed to be like a record player sort of like setup. I'm not sure if I like it that much. Obviously this is supposed to be like the record itself. This is like the needle. It's interesting. This is placed, of course, with snow layers to get like 2 pixel poking out the top. Obviously, you can make it like a bit shorter if you want, you know, with like signs and all that as we've gone over. But I think it looks pretty good. It's not perfect. I think if you just like sell it in like the environment, it looks pretty good. Next up, 2 sort of like examples of like a modern type of railing. I had a build I did like a while ago. There was like a balcony that I had to use carpet, sort of like this as like, you know, like a fancy sort of like modern railing. And it doesn't look bad, but cushions just like look better, and you can obviously place them like a couple pixels lower if you need some like variation in height. So it's kind of fire. Next up, this build tip might look like what is that? So I'm gonna actually go to my house world real quick. Now right here is sort of like a random example of a house I built from Google Earth, right? If you go to the top here, you'd see that we have slabs. So these aren't full blocks. So you basically can't put any detailing on top of these, right? Now sometimes in houses, there will be like a different type of like color like on top of it. Like it'll have like sort of like a gray trim on the top. So this basically like allows us to now like get these sort of details in with cushions while still having like a slab at the top. So that's basically what I'm trying to show here is like you could still like add like roof details on slabs using cushions because you can place them on like any height, which I think is like super cool. Like before I had to basically like just like hope that a roof would line up on a full block or like make sure it lined up on a full block. But like now if I need like gray on the top, like I don't have to make this whole top part gray. I can just put some cushions on it. Obviously it's niche, but I'm sure people will find like better uses for like this sort of thing. You know, I'm not the greatest builder of all time or anything. And next up, it's sort of like just me showing off the fact that despite them removing the pixel placement inside of cauldrons and composters, you could still place cushions in them to kind of have different effects. So right here we have maybe like some like potion, and here we got like pumpkins in here. It's sort of like the same placement trick throughout the video, but just used differently. So if you put some snow layers down, get a cushion in, and then break and replace, you just have anything you want inside of these blocks. And I think it's like pretty sick. A lot of people seem to like think that they like kind of removed even doing this, but you can still do it the old fashioned way, right? You just can't do it like the sub-pixel thing, which I think is a nice middle ground. I don't know. And finally, the most important build tip this whole video, we have the cushion fridge. No way. The bottom is like a decorated pot. The top is like a chain, and it's just 8 cushions stacked. Low key, like looks kind of industrial though. Like actually, like hold up. Are these direction dependent? Oh, they got different textures depending on how you place them. I didn't even think about that. Well, whatever. But it's gonna be it for this video. Let me know down below if you learned anything from this. 100 build tips. Surely one of these you didn't know or think about before, right? Like there's no way you knew all these. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Again, closing on 100K, crazy. Join my Discord, discord.g/rowannn2ns. Link down below and maybe on screen, but probably not on screen. Drop by. Maybe if you have any other cushion use ideas, you know, send them in there. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. And yeah, bye. And of course, as always, thanking my patrons Aelic, ThaMango, Tommi, Natural High, Lezlo, Crumbcakes, Speckyrifl, Bluebee, Val, GuyBuddy, Olivia, Birdsknees, and Emily. See ya.